Howdy folks, it's Meandering Mike in the Man Cave of Menace. It is the middle of the evening and we are doing an unboxing of Siege of Queretaro. This is from the Historical Game Company. It's the Siege of Queretaro in 1867. We've got our handy dandy de-shrinkifying tool. Let's dig into this. Now, this game I'm unboxing because I saw another unboxing, and the person who did that discovered that their counters did not have a back. They had two fronts. The front side of the counters were both on the front and the back. So I decided to go ahead and do this unboxing now. I'm going to zoom out a little bit so we can see this whole thing a little better, just to make sure my counter's okay. And I figured it wasn't on my schedule to unbox stuff, but good excuse to do it now. So, as with most games from the Historical Game Company, it's printed by Blue Panther. Looks like one of those great canvas maps in here. The counters, which I like, except for the fact that I believe they're too thick. It does say 5/8 inch thick game pieces. They're too thick. That means I can't properly trim them with my corner clipping tool from Oregon Laminations. I would like them a little bit thinner, but it is what it is. All right, so let's go ahead and open the box. I'm expecting to find a pretty standard rules. There should be 20 cards, Warista cards. So the Waristas, and you got Emperor Maximilian. They're battling it out there in Mexico in 1886 it was. All right, I'm having a problem with this strap. Wow. All right. Did it get glued on there or something? Normally these just slide right off. I actually have with me some wire cutters, which is not the right tool to use. All right. That just, wow, I have not seen these be that tight. And normally the two ends of these, wow, that was a challenge. That's why sometimes I don't go, I'm not going to open up these cards. I'm going to tilt this down a little bit here, folks. And let's see here. I'm going to get a little side light, see if that helps a little bit. All right. Yes. Juaristas. The Imperialists. That's the little printing dividing card for the batch of cards. All right. So this is a hex encounter war game that's card driven in the simple sense that each turn, each side draws a card, tells the number of units that they can move, and the number they can attack with. So it's kind of like a chit pull thing, but not like which formation you can move. It's telling you how many you can move and attack with. And then there's a special event to add a little, fog of war, friction of war, kind of stuff like that, where you're not sure what's going to happen. Sometimes there's special bonuses. All Imperialist units conducting movement may only move one hex this turn. All right. Food shortage and water. Warista defections. One Imperialist unit of the Imperialist player's choice may be returned to play. So it's like they're getting reinforcements from defectors, bolstering their forces. Imperialist artillery adds +1. 3 Imperialist units in forts or behind fortified lines add +1. Nothing special. So it ranges from about a low of 2, 3, 6 units attacking, 2, 4, 4, 6. So about 4 to 6. And moving 3, 4, 8, up to 8, 7. So on average, 9. On average, they can move more than they can fight with. There's equal 5 and 5, 6 and 6. Let's see. In no case in here are they able to attack with more then they were allowed to move. All right. But of course, it could vary for the other side. That's one of the nice things about this, is that you can help balance the forces. Besides, you know, the ratings on their counters, you can tweak things with the cards. 7 and 6, 7 and 6, 5 and 4, 12 and 9. Yeah, like there's a big coordinated attack. Juaristas, 5 and 6. Okay, here's one. Like, here's where they could actually attack with more than they can move. 8 and 7, 5 and 4, 9 and 5, 11 and 7. Yeah, so the Juaristas definitely have an advantage. On average, they will be attacking with more units than the typical amount that the Imperials will. Some of their specials, the Juarista N army units, +1 attack, the SP and LT. So there should be a key in there explaining what these abbreviations mean. So a bunch of different army segments, whether that's, you know, some kind of divisions, regiments, etc. I'm not sure exactly what they represent, and they may or may not actually tell us that. Restart artillery, get a bonus. 2 may be returned from the dead pile. Well, here's a penalty. Like this one, no NG units can move or attack this turn. Oh, so they actually have a return 2 units and return 1 unit. Rally. These are powerful in this game. These where you can rally at the start of your turn. So normally, if they've shot you at the end of your next turn, you would rally your guys that have been disorganized and flipped over. But with this card, you can flip everyone back over and attack, so that can really hurt the enemy, where they're, you know, been trying to whittle you down, keep you pinned or something. And suddenly, like, nope, we're going to be able to counterattack with all these dudes that were previously flipped over and disorganized. All right. So, a die. Nice big size die. All right. Yes, we do have fronts and backs. and in his, they had fronts and fronts. Which technically is a problem, that you can't tell when. I mean, the data, it's always the defense. This is the defense number. So when you've been flipped over and disrupted, you can't move, you can't attack. But with these, you wouldn't be able to tell the difference, you know, with 2 fronts. You still have all the information, but I suppose you could have used those, like you could put a bead on them or something, or twist them sideways. So it wouldn't have been total, but obviously you want the right counters with fronts and backs. But it would be worse if you had 2 backs. then you don't have the data. You can't play that. That's no good. All right. So as usual with this series of games, from designer Stephen Kling Jr., it's usually just, you know, 4 pages of rules. There's the terrain effects chart. Occasionally there's an issue where they've included some terrain that aren't in the specific game. Hopefully he's tightened that up. That was a problem in a couple of the games. Like, how do you interpret this? And it wasn't quite described right. And sometimes there's special rules in the special rules section, and sometimes they mention special rules that aren't actually there. For the first turn only, the Warriors player is not limited by the number of units permitted to move in their card that turn, but they still draw it. They've had ones where it's like, well, it sounds like they don't draw a card, but they didn't say that explicitly, and they had like 2 turns with their free moves, and it's like, that definitely sounds a little more explicitly spelled out. So, so the symbols, wow, this one has a much larger variety of cavalry. Many of these games that I've looked at so far were American Revolutionary War, and there's like almost none, or are no cavalry. There's it's like the Western frontier, and there's only like 1 that I remember that actually had cavalry, but various infantry, artillery, supply wagons. And then the unit designations are usually in the setup section here. Imperial units marked with O and M. Olveras and Marquesas. Relief forces were reached marks with a P. And the Palacios. See. Well, again, it's whether it's Mexican versus like Castilian Spanish or not. Reached as N, C, and W. Didn't define what those represent there. Sometimes there's here's a better key on the back for more of those. Nope, I'm not seeing the. It's got some of them. Cazadores a caballo. Chasseurs au cheval. It's French. You know, Maximilian invading Mexico. Jalisco Lancers line, Municipal Guards, NG National Guards, Supreme Guard. So those letters on some are not explained. Which were they? The set up just the NCs and Ws. So we might be able to figure that out from the cards where those refer to them. Well, American Arms and dudes from the north, I don't know. Northerners, American SPLT units, NCWP, confusion in the ranks. Because they're different armies within the Waristas. Armies, and so units from only one army, NCWP. So it's 4 separations, groups within the Warista army as a whole. They're because the same way that you'd have a division or a corps or an army, they're breaking those down into armies. Doesn't actually tell us what those stand for, but because I mean, if it was, you know, N and W, I would think north and west, but C and yeah, I don't know. All right, and last and not least is, now it's got a slight, you know, fold in it because it's a thin box, but it's not creased, so you can roll this back. You can see in here there's not a permanent crease on here. If these were a little thicker, if these were the 2-inch boxes, which some, like a War Diary magazine used Blue Panther also, and it had the thicker box, and then you could do this, right? I would not, I would not want to roll this that tight. Yeah, it didn't even completely undo that. So I don't know if you can iron these or not. If you keep it under like plexiglass, I don't have any plexiglass available right now. I thought I had some somewhere, but it seemed to got lost in the move or something. I'm not sure if my wife threw it out or not. I wonder if you could lightly iron that, or is this canvas isn't really canvas. That's a vinyl plastic that's going to melt. Alrighty, so we've got the normal 24-turn game track, which I always wonder, why is it 24 turns? So for every single one of these I've opened up from the historical game, has always had 24 turns. And that just seems weird to me. So, wow, this is an interesting fort line. Now let me double check here what it says. Fortification. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit so you can read that a little better along with me. Must stop after moving across the fortified line. No cavalry except by road. +1 to the defender if attacked across fortified hexes. All right, and if there's no one there, they have to When they cross, they must stop. Orchards, +1 defender, must stop when entering. You know, that's the standard as the forest and the other ones. If you enter, you may not engage on combat. So you can maneuver to get into the orchard, like to give yourself defense, but you'd have to stop, and you cannot. Now, this is weird. I get forest, but cavalry cannot enter the orchard. I call a little mild BS on that. Well, yeah, I suppose a big cavalry you can't march through in your normal formation. Yeah, I guess. But I don't know. I would think a cavalry should be able to enter, but maybe they don't get the bonus. They have to spread out. Or something, they wouldn't get the defender bonus. Anyway, hill, 2 movement factors to enter across the slope from lower elevation. All right. So defender, Warista entry hexes, so they're spread around the map. Come in siege. San Gregorio Hills, San Sebastian, Hill of Bells, San Juanico, El Pueblito, Fiesta, China Hill, Carquelas Hills, San Pablo Hills. All right. Now, some interesting buildings here. Fort must stop after entering hex, no cavalry except by road +2. So those are looks like the fort that are completely around. There's 3 hexagons here that are completely surrounded by fortification lines. That symbol, that hollow white symbol. So, but if you're in that, these are so not only is like you're surrounded from all directions by these fortification lines, but you know there's besides walls, there's you know much more stronger, well-defended, fortified buildings. Now these other buildings must stop entering +1 defense. So even if they get across the walls, I think normally they've always stated that they don't stack. You take the best. So attacking across the wall into buildings does not give you +2. There's the +1 of the buildings, the +1 of the wall. If they get across it in there, then you're taking one building the other. All the guys in the buildings will have a +1 on defense. The bridge here and here, +1 attack to cross. Rivers, +1 attack to cross. Must stop and cannot cross until next turn unless there's a bridge. So you have to stop in front of it. Must stop and cannot cross until the next turn. So you have to start next to the river to cross. But then it doesn't like take up any of your movement. It's like, so if you end up moving from a distance next to a river, it took you a while to get there, and then you have to stop. Well, you don't have any left, but then you can cross freely. That's like kind of odd. If you're like 1 hex away and you move up, you have to stop. You waste the rest of your movement. Next turn you can cross, and it doesn't say that it takes all your movement to cross. And after that, you could go zip, zip. Or let's say you might be a fair distance away and you move up and you just end next to it and you could cross anyway. So I don't know. I will look at the rules in more detail to see if they mention the specifics. But I would hope or think that when you cross, does it take up all your movement the next turn? It doesn't say that. Anyway. See, the typical movement allowance of these guys being 3, 5 for some cavalry, 3, some 4s, 3, 5s. If you did something like said, oh, it costs, +2 movement to cross the river, then, if you started next to it and you only moved 3, you'd take everything. If you moved up, you wouldn't have enough for the 3 movement guys, but the guys with 4 movement would be able to move up 1 and cross. I don't know. Until I play it, then I shouldn't. I'm analyzing it. I'm doing an analysis. I'm trying to figure out that. But this is sort of a non-traditional way to handle the river. But it may work fine. So in the actual gameplay, see how it works. And again, I'm not going to read all the rules here through. But I'm looking here, special rules, clarifications, and I'm not seeing. I see stuff about fortified lines. I see the orchard mentioned, but I do not see the rivers being mentioned here. And the ones that I've the other games from historical games, they have not handled the rivers this way before. So can we something there? Orchard hexes cannot move. Blah 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 blah. Anyway, all right. So that, folks, is the Siege of Queretaro, if I'm pronouncing that right. Queretaro. We have the Juaristas versus Emperor Maximilian's forces. Let's zoom out here. Yeah, let's read this little blurb. 1867. The Juaristas under General Escobedo has cornered Emperor Maximilian and his Mexican imperial forces at Queretaro. While the Juaristas have superior numbers, many of the emperor's troops are well-trained and eager to fight for their emperor. However, the Juarista noose is tightening. The stage is set. All right. And I'm assuming, from everything I've seen, it's their standard historical game company combat system where you compare a die 6 plus the attacker's roll against the defense strength of the defender. And if you match that number, you get a hit. So you're rolling a die and adding a bonus and see if you got that number of higher to hit them. All right. If you roll, I think it's 2, was it 2 more? It's, yeah, hit equaling or 1 over, it's a hit, and you're flipped over to the other side here. If when you're disorganized like this, if you're hit again, you die. Except if you're in certain forts, you can ignore those disorganization results. You don't have to retreat. You don't get disorganized. Or actually, now you can still get disorganized, but you don't have to retreat. But those forts, like where you have the +2 on your defense, it's really hard to get the numbers where you've got the really high defensive guys. They don't have anything here. Well, there's a couple guys with a 7 defense. Yeah, theirs are going to be tough. The Juaristas don't appear to have anything. Oh, 2 guys with a 7. And then some 6s. Ooh, a cavalry with a 6. Let's see, they have 3. So they have a slight advantage in the high defense rating dudes. 2s. No unit in this game has higher than a 2. Sometimes you have artillery units that are higher. Yeah, and they have none of those. These are all mobile pieces of artillery. It looks like no fixed guns. So even though there are fortifications, there are no fixed guns with a 0 movement with much higher strengths. Or the swivel guns that are in some of those ones, they get to shoot twice. They have like a 7 defense, and they sit in those block houses in like Fort Jefferson attack. Man, that is a tough nut to crack, I'll tell you. So anyway, I'm Meandering Mike here. I'm almost up to 25 minutes. As usual, we like to explore and look at these things. Yeah, a lot more artillery. Or not sure. Sorry, I was looking at the and pointing at the cavalry counters, and I said, yeah, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Looks like the Juaristas have 8 pieces of cavalry. 1, 2, 3. Now that's interesting. 2, 3, yeah, 3, 4. Oh, 5, 6. They're not too bad. They still have a fair number. Good 6s. 5s. Some things with artillery are down to 5s. Oh, a couple of really like militia dudes, I'd guess, probably. They've got some 5s. They've got a fair number of 5s. So. It's going to be bloody. It'll be bloody. So, it's called there, folks. Meandering Mike, Man Cave of Madness. Another unboxing of historical game company title, The Siege of Queretaro. Printed by Blue Panther. Looks like that'll be a fun one to play. Not sure. These play relatively fast, especially if I'm not filming it, if I'm just playing. And I'm going to have to this year do a number of ones where I just sort of like maybe play a turn or two and then just film a little update and play a turn or two and not do it live, recording all the moves and the thought processes. But because otherwise it takes me like way longer if I'm actually filming, talking out loud to do that. But, some of you folks really like those as a way to like learn, how do I play a Hex Encounter war game? How do I think through using the troops that I have, how these rules actually work? Because, you can learn how to play a game, and then there's how to play a game, right? And, sometimes it's like, okay, I get what the mechanics are, but, how should I do this? How should I carry out these attacks? And, that didn't work well. I just threw all those guys over there, and they all got blown away, So a lot of you, or at least some of you, like the more in-depth ones, but I can't do that for all the games, right? Because it just take me forever. So I would like to at least do a couple of more this year of these historical game company games. They're kind of fun. All right, folks, let's call it quits there. Meandering Mike and the Man Cave of Madness. Let's put that box art up here for the goodbye. So make sure you take care. And ciao.